All right, so for context, we've got the TCG duel event that occurred in Macedon, which is Macedon utilizing the TCG ban list without, like 3 sets of cards. I understand, but it was something, right? So Maxx C, notoriously, is the banned card in the TCG, and OCG have Maxx C. Two very different perspectives and philosophies of the game, I suppose, from West and East. But some of the Chinese players over on this forum here had a chance to try out the TCG duel event, and they gave their takes on playing in a format without Maxx C. I'm only translating upvoted comments as it represents takes people agree with and not just a specific commenter. I want to point out that the OCG China has a different mindset and even meta from OCG. Some context, OCG banlist decisions are heavily influenced by Japan results and feedback, and China often feels unnoticed. Weird. The most recent example was Super Heavy Adamancipator dominating China, but not Japan, so it wasn't hit in time. I have my own personal biases and opinions, but as my IRL job involves translation, I'm experienced at keeping it true to the source and keep them to a minimum. Is Adamancipator Super Heavy viable in Macedon right now? So here's some comments. C should be limit, semied, but not banned. This is like the wildest take. Like, so remember what the context of this is, right? These aren't just random comments that he's picked out. These are upvoted comments that people agree with, right? So this is like a representation of a good solid number of people who are on this forum. In which universe do you have this like absolute demonic take that Maxx C should be at 3 or should be at like 1 or 2? I don't know. As someone who doesn't like the card anymore, I used to be a little bit impartial to it, but as someone who really dislikes the card now, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't see like I don't know if I completely disagree with this. If I had to pick, right? If you had to choose and you couldn't have it banned, I mean, I guess less is better. Yeah, it's a little bit sacky, and whoever draws it in the one of Maxx C in the 7% opening hand probably wins the game. But at the same time, it's just going to happen less often. So you can just ignore its existence and you don't have to play Call by Ash, Cross Out, and you could actually deck build in such a way where you can just ignore it, right? Because right now with Maxx C, the way the game works is you build around it, or you ignore it, or you actually play cards in your deck that have plays through Maxx C. I don't really know how consistent that is. It doesn't happen often, but there are things you can do to play around it, quote unquote. Tier Limits just going Kick Kaloss Set Sullik was like a great example of a way to play around Maxx C. And there's like a lot of decks and stuff that have like options if you get Maxx C. Seals Pass, although you still give your opponent like 2 or 3 cards. But yeah. Anyway, this is obvious. Like this is just coping and trying to defend this and come up with the devil's advocate approach to this. I think this is just completely demonic, and I don't know what you're doing. Woods? Okay. The OCG meta revolves around C. This is further amplified by Macedon Best of 1. It's not a good sign that 3 to 9 slots are mandatory because of C. If your argument is how can I go second without C, then what is your game plan going second except for resolving C? That's true. That's a base take, honestly. He's spitting. If your argument is, well, I need Maxx C for my deck to be able to compete for all these crazy go first decks, well, it's like, okay, well, if Maxx C wasn't in the game, what would be your plan anyway? Right? So it's like, clearly the problem fundamentally is something inherently with the game, right? Because Maxx C is a band-aid to that situation, which is what people don't understand when they use this argument. If you say, like, Maxx C keeps the game in check, or Maxx C helps me go second and all that stuff, Maxx C is a band-aid. It's there to, like, really badly attempt to fix a problem. The source of the problem itself inherently isn't being addressed or dealt with. 2011 card, by the way. C is definitely a problem. You can't just say, what about going second and call it a day? TCG doesn't have C and the format is fine. I feel a meta without C is better. TCG doesn't have C and the format is fine. Okay, format-wise, TCG is like, okay, right? Like to be fair. The format itself is fine. But, there's other things wrong with the TCG that they have it better than us, right? Like, buying cards. C shouldn't be banned. The ability to play around C is part of the strength and weakness of decks. It's why Branded and Labyrinth have been meta for a long time. Banning C will make it more like the TCG list. Every list will be a massacre the previous deck to sell the new decks. I don't think the meta will be better. Like, the thing is, like, he's technically not wrong, right? Like, Maxx C shouldn't be banned. Okay, that's an opinion, right? But the rest of this is, like, like just facts, right? Like that is like true. You know, the ability to play around C is part of the strength and weaknesses of decks, right? That is why Branded and Labyrinth are really good in OCG, right? And in Macedon as well, right? Because like they can play really well into Maxx C, right? You give your opponent like 1 or 2 cards, and you have like really powerful pushes just with like 1 or 2 special summons. And this part about every list will have to be a massacre. I don't know if that's like a Maxx C related thing though, to be fair. Because usually what it is like the combo stuff in OCG usually gets left alone for a while, longer than TCG does, because Maxx C exists. But I don't know if it's like product related, really. I guess you could maybe interpret it that way. C should be nerfed to prevent full combo, and C, or put a cap in hashtag draws. What's going on here? Why is this guy talking like an absolute zoomer? Maxx C should be nerfed to prevent full combo plus C, or put a cap in hashtag draws. Social media marketing for Maxx C, dude. Hashtag draws! Maxx C in the opening hand, baby. I don't know what he's saying. I actually don't know what this is trying to say. It should be nerfed to prevent full combo plus C. Like, this is the worst thing about Maxx C, right? It's like, I don't even feel that bad these days when my opponent Maxx C's me. It's like, when they get to go first, I didn't draw a hand trap, they do full combo, and then they go standby Maxx C, and I'm just sitting there like, well, you could have just showed me that like 10 minutes ago, I would have hit the surrender button. I'm expecting FTKs in this event. Morph Telephone FTK, Blaze Phoenix FTK. No, that's not what Maxx C... Like, Maxx C ban does not suddenly make these things good. These decks lose to, like, everything, okay? Maxx C, irrespective of that in the TCG. TCG has never had, like, gimmicky FTKs be viable, right? And I say very clearly gimmicky, right? There was, like, a couple of, like, FTKs that have been, you know, meta in the TCG, but that's not because they were gimmicky. They were actually fucking crazy good decks, right? Danger, for example, just a really, really good deck, you know, all round. Pendulum FTK was just, even if you didn't FTK, that was like a solid good deck, you know, triple Electromite Astrograph, like that was nuts. But that like, those were not like, you know, gimmicky FTK. Like when you say something like Telephone and Blaze Phoenix, like those things have never been good in TCG. Frog FTK? Okay, I'm not gonna comment on a deck from 10 years ago. You got, if you have to get, guys, if you have to come up with an example from like 12 years ago, you're clearly yapping. All right, you're trying really hard to scrape the bottom of the barrel here with arguments. With sales bans and prohibition legal to stop your interruption, you can use Magical Midbreaker field to cover other interruption. This invalidates all board breakers, as there won't be turn 2. People forget, like, when they make all these arguments about how like silly Yu-Gi-Oh is, it's like, oh, you can just put all these like crazy things like prohibition and sales. But first of all, prohibition, you have to like, unless you're stream sniping your opponent or cheating, like prohibition is like never good, right? Like, what do you mean prohibition? You're just gonna randomly declare Ash and hope they have it in their opening hand? Like, that's so bizarre. Midbreaker, you know, there's a lot of targeting hand traps, admittedly, and you know that card was meta. People did play it in Goki, side decked, I think. So, you know, and that card got limited. C is insane. It trades 1-for-1 at worst. Comments is referred to a video that I have no context of, so I will skip that part. The worst feeling in Yu-Gi-Oh is when their C resolves and your doesn't. This is true. That's why Maxx C is so good. At an absolute minimum, it's a 1-for-1. C is used in all decks. The deck building constraints caused by C is too strong, just like continuous floodgates. This guy is so based. Oh my god. Ni hao to my friend over here in China. This guy is spitting. C is even stronger as it can be used going second. Even if call by is legal, it's just turning the game into did you resolve the C? Wow. Actual base, dude. It's too late. What? It's too late. If you want to ban C, it will require a ban list overhaul that is not possible overnight. Yes, it is. What do you mean? You'll just have like 30 bans. But it's very possible. Like, that's not true. Do you guys think that's true? This is not... Why do you think this is wrong? It will require a ban list overhaul that is not possible. What do you mean? Just literally just take everyone out back. Union Carrier, Block Dragon, Magic Drag, whatever else is still remaining because of the quote-unquote Maxx C legality and OCG. Just ban them all, right? What do you mean? Yeah, just get rid of OCG and they can become TCG. How does that sound? Even in Macedon, when the dust is refunded, you will need a lot of stuff to replace them. This is, by the way, this is one of the most important things that people forget whenever there's like decks that are banned. One of the worst things isn't that your deck just gets banned, right? Or rather cards, right? Like, let's say, like, you know, you play Tier Limit in Macedon and they, like, limit Pearl Rhino, right? So you get rid of, like, your 2 Perlo Rhinos, right? But then what if they also like ban like, you know, Kit Koloss, and then they ban like Rhino Heart, right? You get your refunded dust from that, but all of the other cards around it in your deck are now wasted dust, right? Because now your Kaleido Heart feels like wasted, even though you don't get a refund on that. Now your, maybe your Dragostapelia feels wasted because you don't get a refund on that. So there's a lot of cards around it, you know, like banning one card, you still have the other cards in your deck, right? Like, for example, in Zodiac, right? Let's say, like, they ban, you know, Dryden, right? The deck becomes completely unplayable. You still have 3 Barrage, let's say, hypothetically, right? But now your Barrages don't do anything, because you can't, like, you can't do anything, right? Like, the deck has been killed, but you don't get refunded on the other aspects. C is good. It bridges the skill gap. Wow, please. That's a take. All right. Maxx C bridges the skill gap. Even a 5-year-old can win if his C resolves. Very sarcastic tone. Oh, okay. Never mind. C makes the stronger and the weak weaker. Wait, what? Bruh, it's a card game. It's not eugenics. C makes the strong stronger and the weak weaker. Full power branded tiers are able to do very strong plays under C, but a lot of good viable rogue decks do not have this luxury. There's a few like Sword Soul that can do Chi-Shao Blackout in 2+ hand trap, but a lot of decks don't. Okay, I don't know what this first sentence was referring to, but I guess I kind of see what he's saying, right? Like, that's the thing. Maxx C is really good for a lot of decks that have powerful plays into Maxx C, right? But even like the shitty rogue decks. Like, imagine you're playing like a shitty rogue deck, and it's like, oh yeah, my Earth Machine deck has been kept in check by Maxx C. It's like, oh wow, great. Thank you. My tier 76 deck now folds because they resolved Maxx C. And that's just unfair, right? Because why is it that like a full power like branded deck can play like really well into C, but my tier like, you know, Peeps deck just loses? That just feels bad. The biggest issue with C is that it benefits the person going first. It should have the can only be activated if you control no cards clause. I have a whole video dedicated to Maxx C errata if anyone's interested in that. It brings up a lot of good points. I think if you had to change the text on Maxx C, making it so that you could control no cards is probably one of the best suggestions for changing it. And also letting it only special draw for like extra deck special summons might be better as well. Ideally, you just make it a vanilla.
Stop combo just like Droll and Nibiru. Also happy 10 months, Joel.
They need to ban and give other cards that can stop combo like Droll and Nibiru. Yeah, we talked a little bit about this in the podcast. So, you know, make sure you go subscribe to Heart of the Cast podcast right now. Me and Joshua Schmidt. We talked a lot actually, an 1 hour 30 discussion on combo decks, etc., etc. And then obviously, you know, we had to mention things like the board breakers, the Maxx C. What's the use of this discussion? C isn't getting banned as it would require too many further changes. If you don't want to play versus C, just play TCG. Ah, yes, guy living in fucking China. Yeah, just tell your Chinese friends to go play TCG. I'm sure there's a big booming TCG community in China. You know, I'm sure there's thriving local game stores that just play with the TCG list. Like, what do you mean? Like, what? Maybe there is. I don't know, but you can't just tell someone to just play TCG forehead. You can't just do that. VPN to play on TV. C existing allows for an reason to print cards that should never be printed. The reason TCG bans more aggressively than OCG is because C is allowing the cards that shouldn't exist in the first place. Such a true and base take, dude. Holy, these people are so smart. The Chinese community is now my new favorite Yu-Gi-Oh community, I swear. The worst part about C is my opponent going full combo. I map out how to break their board, then get C. Yep, he said it. He said it. Anyway, so what's really interesting, the takeaway here from this is people in China who've never even really played in a format with TCG seem to be having the same arguments and same criticisms of Maxx C that we have. And they have never really played in a format with it. So honestly, kind of cool. Pretty good thread on this. So yeah, that was nice.